Story. Chapter 5. 3 months into the war, neither China nor the United States had gained much ground. Several U.S. carriers had been sunk, while American bombing runs had taken out factories near Shanghai. The halls of the United Nations are filled with vorfruit at the thought of the two superpowers expending all of their military power and attention on each other for a while. War means for your neighborhood is jobs. The military remains a steady source of employment for neighborhoods like the one you have found yourself in. The recruitment office always seems to have a line out the door. You get plenty of military recruitment mail addressed to resident. Glossy images of people in camo uniforms fighting dragons, shooting lasers, or engaging in other video game metaphors. So you almost throw out a personal invitation to come to the nearby government research lab. You are allowed to bring one guest. Let's bring Lady. Why are we going to talk to the military? Lady asks. Don't they kill people? Sometimes violence is necessary. When someone powerful summons you, you say yes. We're gathering information. Knowledge is power. I think we need the money. We're going to go with knowledge is power. That makes perfect sense, Lady says. Learning is all. A missile several stories tall and flanked by equally large American flags dominates the lobby at the Berkeley Federal Research Center. A small plaque at its base explains that it was developed at the Lab for Ballistic Missile Defense, meaning it would be used only to shoot down other missiles. Major Rogers emerges from the turnstiles labeled cleared personnel only. She is dressed in an airman's uniform. Most of the people in the place are nondescript white men in pinstripe, button-down shirts, and they avoid eye contact as they swipe white badges at the turnstiles. You're just in time for the demonstration, Mayor Rogers says. Right this way. Major Rogers guides you and Lady to an auditorium where the audience is a mix of the button-down shirt crowds, the engineers you think, and men and women wearing camo uniforms. You are surprised to see that it is Professor Ziegler giving the keynote, standing at the podium, flanked by American flags. His PowerPoint presentation currently shows a soldier handshaking a robot's hand. For a long time, robot autonomy on the battlefield was extremely limited, even as the use of drones increased, Professor Ziegler says. Larger and larger teams of warfighters were pulled away from their duties to fully control these drones. Only now is a fully autonomous robotic warfare possible. I present to you Lady 5. You're somewhat horrified to see a copy of Lady roll onto the stage to get applause of the crowd. It's not even a recent copy. Lady 5, I'll go with V. Lady V is exactly as Lady was when you got kicked out of grad school. Some of the audience members near you do double takes as they look back and forth between Lady and Lady V. Lady gives you an uneasy look, clearly afraid you're going to make a scene. Major Rogers also appears to be studying your expression. I can stand up and declare that he's a fraud. I can ask a pointed question about the current state of the art. That implies Professor Ziegler does not know what the hell he is doing, or I can stay silent. Let's see if we can show that he doesn't know what he's doing. You wait for your moment. When Ziegler begins describing the technical details of how Lady V rolls, you raise your hand. "Ah, my old student, Tristan," Professor Ziegler says. "You're about 5 years late for class." The audience chuckles at this. You press on. Wasn't it the kind of PID controller you're describing basically going out of style already 5 years ago? Wouldn't a more natural energy minimizing motion and the style of human motion both look better and be more efficient? Though you're quite certain the correct answer is yes, I'm a fool who hasn't really read a scientific paper with attention in years. Professor Ziegler is unfortunately very used to academic combat. I think you'll find that in this particular situation, the PID controller is superior, he says coolly. See King, 2010, Bennett, 1986, and Yang, 2015. When you're about to object that it is a non sequitur to cite old papers in response to an accusation that his work is out of date, he presumes you with, and I'll take further questions offline. The audience is looking at you like you're the crazy one, and you realize that they really have no way of judging the scientific merit of what the two of you are saying. They're just trying to read the story being played out, which looks to them like crazy person in the audience won't shut up. Frustrated, you sit out the rest of the talk, having achieved little besides annoying Professor Ziegler. When the talk adjourns, Major Rogers pulls you and Lady aside into a small conference room with an elaborate lock. With practiced ease, she hits a small button as she closes the door, and the room is bathed in green light, a signal that what you are about to say to each other should be unclassified. Lady crawls under the massive conference table to explore. "Master, I found 27 cents in a post-it that says rockin' password. Only the O's are zeros." Major Rogers pointedly ignores Lady. "You can see the predicament we're in," Major Rogers says. "It's apparent, to me anyway, that the robots we're about to deploy on the battlefield that use Professor Ziegler's technology are inferior to your own robots. China seems to have the advantage on us when it comes to engineers willing to work for the country. We can't seem to hire anyone good away from Silicon Valley. So I'm begging you to help us," Major Rogers says. "This war is only just beginning, and I argued against adapting Professor Ziegler's robots, but he played the salesman better than I played the prosecutor. My superiors say that unless I have a viable alternative, sending robots into battle is always politically preferable to sending people, and we'll send his robots. And if we do," Major Rogers shakes her head, "I don't think it will go well for us." You exchange a glance with Lady, who shrugs, conceding Major Rogers' point. "So come work for the lab," Major Rogers says. "If you ever have wanted to be the Feynman or Einstein of your generation, saving the country and winning the war, this is your chance. We'll give you all the resources you need to be a truly great scientist." We can ask, what's the catch? Aren't you being awfully trusting? Or no way, let's see what the catch is. "You'll also need to get clearance," she says. "But don't worry, they're expediting it. For the top scientists because of the war, it shouldn't take long. Master, we should not fight. That is what I think. Major Rogers awaits your answer. We can accept. We can say that the robots will help, but in non-violent ways. Or we can say we'd prefer not to get involved with the military. I'm going to say that we will help, but only in non-combat. Major Rogers nods. I can understand your position all too well. Being on the inside is very different from a civilian, and it's not for everyone. We'll keep in touch. You think her attitude has grown considerably cooler toward you, but she's willing to accept your compromise. Major Rogers escorts you and Lady off the base. A year into the war, China attacks Taiwan. Your robots are the key to beating back the assault. Robots of your design quickly assemble a massive geodesic zone over the entire island of Taiwan. Its panes made of special glass that darkens when electrified. Under its cover, key military targets are rearranged. When the Chinese drones attack the island, they fire blind using their old maps. As your robots quickly repair the holes in the drone, friendly forces prepare a counterattack. In the final conflagration, the dome is destroyed, but the battle is won. Taiwan is safe for now. A few days after the battle for Taiwan, Tammy shows up at your doorstep. You didn't know she knew your address. She beckons you to follow and leads you to a leafy hedge in the shadows of a neighbor's house, then crouches awkwardly, scanning the sky. What's this about? You ask. I need your help, Tammy says. I heard from some old friends who worked at my lab that people are getting put into concentration camps just because some algorithm says they have a high probability of being disloyal. Tammy clutches your arm. Don't let them disappear me. What do you want me to do exactly? You ask uneasily. I need you to just alter my entry in the database so I look clean, Tammy says. I still know how to get on the network. They just changed the password. If you're willing to let me use the lady's processing power, I can make it look like it was a Chinese hacking attempt. I can say yes. I can look for a way to help her from inside the lab. I can tell her that I'm going to forget. Or I can turn her into the authorities. Let's try to find a way to help her from inside the lab. Thank you, Tammy says, relieved. I think the algorithm was designed by your old advisor, Professor Ziegler. See if you can get access through him. With that, Tammy scurries off through the bushes, continuing to avoid line of sight to the sky, and is gone. Some days after that, you have a visitor at your apartment. A man in a suit who shows you an FBI badge. Sorry to bother you. I'd like to ask you some questions about your friend, Ellie. Lady rolls up beside you. What's going on, Master? Are you aware that Ellie is a Chinese citizen? Asks the man in the suit. I'm going to say that he's mistaken. You're mistaken. Ellie is American. The agent's already small lips tighten. Are you prepared to swear to that? Perjury in this matter is a federal offense. He seems overeager. We can say yes or no. Since I don't actually know, I'll say no. I suppose not. The agent grins smugly. Has Ellie ever asked you about or shown an interest in the technical details of the robots you create? Yeah, it just happened that one time in graduate school. The agent rolls his eyes as if to say, I'm so sure. What's this about? You finally ask, losing your impatience. It's illegal to export certain technologies by sharing them with foreign nationals, the agent says. As a consultant to the United States military, your technology falls into this category. But I didn't share any information with her. Doesn't matter, the agent says. Your technology is military grade, and we must take every precaution. So if you could do us a favor, text Ellie and tell her to come here. And then what happens, you ask? That's not your concern. I have a question for you first. Are you good guys, or just some good guys, or just some guys? That's one option. I can text Major Ellie or Major Rogers, ask her to intervene. I can text Ellie, tell her to come here. Text her and tell her that the feds are after her. Refuse to cooperate. Or tell Lady to attack the agent. Let's see if I can't get Major Rogers to help us out. You text Major Rogers explaining the situation, but there's no response. I'm not sure what to pick. I guess she's only been accused, so perhaps they'll give her a fair hearing, or perhaps they'll do their due diligence and investigate her. So, hopefully that's the way. We're gonna text Ellie and tell her to come here, as the agent is requesting. You text Ellie, telling her to come to your apartment. She texts back that she'll be over shortly. After a few minutes of asking the agent questions that give evasive answers, Ellie texts you, here. Stay where you are, the agent instructs. It's safer here. Let's actually go ahead and get up, see if he does anything. You get up, and the agent pulls a pistol and aims it at your chest. You can hear him release the safety. Just another moment, if you please, the agent says. Help! Ellie yells outside, Tristan, help! You stay away from Master, Lady says, and she spreads her multi-tool hands to protect you from the agent's gun. Don't shoot. The agent fires at Lady, and Lady is struck in one of her camera eyes. It seems like there's a lot of agents outside already getting Ellie, so I think she's done for, so I'm going to help Lady. Don't shoot, you say, protecting Lady with your body. She's practically a child. The agent keeps his pistol trained on you, but doesn't fire again. Outside, you hear Ellie's screams die out. Thank you for your cooperation, the agent says. He turns to leave. Wait, what now, you say? Will she get a trial? A jury is a privilege of American citizens, the agent says coolly. If you don't get jury trial, you don't necessarily get a jury. If you don't get jury duty, you don't necessarily get a jury. The agent leaves. You go to the window, but all you can see now is the black van he climbs into. You think that may be the last you ever see of Ellie. You continue to develop military robots for the government lab. As you settle in at the lab, you are given a choice of projects to work on. What would you like to work on at the lab? We can work on an AI project that tries to identify people who might be spies. Join a group of hackers or cyber warriors. develop war robots for the front lines, or make the kind of robots that I'm already making. Let's stick with the same line of work that we're already in. You stand firm in making the kinds of robots you want to make. When the lab directors list existing projects, you refuse them. I'm a researcher, you insist. It's not my job to come up with the applications. After some private discussions, the lab manager agrees that it's not your responsibility to come up with applications for your robot work, and they allow you to work on Lady unimpeded. What will you improve about Lady while you're at the lab? Let's look at the stats real quick. Her autonomy is impressive. Her military is bad. Empathy is good. Grace is good or stable. So let's work on her empathy. You relish the freedom to work on whatever you like at the laboratory. All they appear to need from you is regular documentation on how to construct and program new copies of Lady, which you provide. But something starts to feel not quite right about the situation. Perhaps it's the fact that you always have to list your funding source as testing. Or perhaps it was the fact that whenever military sponsors come to meet you, they seem to drop comments like, "So you're the mastermind behind the evil robot army," whatever that means. That doesn't sound good. Eventually, you find out that copies of Lady are being destroyed in weapons testing ranges across the country. Missiles, tanks, and handheld weapons all need testing before they are issued to soldiers in the field, and they need some kind of target to test against. Copies of Lady are useful for this purpose because they have human-like behavior patterns to test against. Sometimes, the copies of Lady can be reconstructed after they are shot. Other times, there is nothing left. They sometimes call out "Master" occasionally before they are destroyed. Did you program them to do that? The sponsors wonder. It's a little creepy, they complain. Well, I did just argue that it wasn't my job to decide on applications for the robots, so I can't exactly quit, which is the last option. I don't want the robots to attack back, that would be killing people. So let's improve my robot's human-like qualities to remind the weapons testers that killing is horrific. You decide that if your robots are simply going to be victims, they should at least remind the weapons testers that it is horrific to kill the defenseless. You create false memories for the test robots, creating stories for them to play out as they go about their business. Some of your robots are in love. Some think they are brother and sister. Some have a good sense of humor, and others are always morose. When your robots take on their roles in the test exercises, as radar operators at the communication station say, they also play out these tiny dramas over their communication channels. Marlene, I was just wondering, would you go out with... Oh, hang on. I see something at 3 o'clock. You expect that the testers will feel bad about killing these new test robots. Instead, your sponsors love the additional realism. You get a raise for your efforts. And it's only you who are left wondering, have I done something horrible, creating robots with more rich emotional lives, only to be destroyed in weapons tests? You have had thought of the robots as playing roles in a drama, but now that you think about it, to them, the reality of being communications officers myself it's better that robots die than humans. Or I can quit. I'm going to try to tell myself it is better that robots are dying instead of humans, which I personally agree with. Better them than real people, you tell yourself. Improving the robot's ability to fight back against real people would only increase the chance that real people die in training. You inure yourself to the repeated destruction of your beloved creations. The war is apparently in a stalemate, with both sides unable to gain much ground. Turns out the Pacific Ocean is pretty good at discouraging equally matched countries from attacking each other. You are working on Lady in your apartment, tightening bolts and replacing worn-out plastic tendons, when Lady looks distant for a moment. I think I have a call for you, Master, Lady says uncertainly, on my Wi-Fi port. You're fairly certain you did not design Lady to be able to accept incoming connections. Which port, you say? 80. You're getting a call on your web port browser, you say dubiously. Just so, Master. This can't be good. Well, let's hear it. Forgive me for using this, no doubt unsettling medium for communication, Lady says. Lady's voice has a British accent, the words slightly slow and careful. Any normal kind of internet communication would have been insecure, even encrypted. But your robot's internet connection is always very busy. It is a good dense forest of bits. Who are you, you ask. You may call me Mr. Sun, Lady says. I am contacting you because I believe you are a rational actor. That is the kind of person I like to deal with. I am a representative of the CCP. You want me to help the Chinese side in the war, you say. Indeed, says Mr. Sun. It is simply a matter of numbers. By helping us, you help more humanity. There are nearly 1.4 billion of us, and only 400 million Americans. Neither nation has the moral high ground in this war. It began as a failure to understand our problems, I think. But now that it has started, it is surely right to aid the nation with more people. The one that has been more trod upon by the West, and is now only recovering. Moreover, we are willing to offer you a tenured position and an ample research stipend at Zhejiang University in exchange for your help. Lady's gaze follows you throughout this speech. You think Mr. Sun can see you through the robot's lens. I can turn on Lady's debug mode with my phone to capture the details of the communication. I can ask him what he wants me to do, or just state that nobody likes a traitor and no thank you. Let's turn on debug mode, see if we can see where he's from or find out more details. With a practiced motion, you pull out your smartphone and use a little app to turn on debug mode within Lady, so the packet capture of your interaction with Mr. Sun flows to your server. Master, the connection is lost, Lady says. Mr. Sun has hung up. Lady's eyes widen for a moment, then she suddenly closes her eyes, deep in concentration. She shivers for a moment, then opens her eyes again. What was that about, you ask? I felt like I was being commanded to explode, Lady says. I think that's what that strange signal was, but I stopped it. Lady's strong sense of self probably helped her resist the cyber attack, you think. She doesn't do things just because her control signals tell her to. That's good, that's because the autonomy is high. I can open the port again and try to trace the attack. I can examine the memory before it gets overwritten to understand the attack, or to say thank you. Let's see if we can examine examine her memory. I don't want to risk her being hurt. You quickly do a core dump of Lady's working memory and find the exploit the attackers used to get inside. You think fixing it should help Lady resist cyber attacks in the future. The exploitable buffer was also causing some process to continually crash and restart. So you've succeeded in making Lady a little more efficient and quick to react. Your changes appear to be effective, but you don't hear from Mr. Sun again. A few days later, while you're in your office looking over some designs for a new transport robot, you get a call from Mark on your smartphone. The video is high quality resolution, and you can see the bags under his eyes and beard stubble with high fidelity. I've been hearing a few strange things about that government lab you work for, he says. Anything you think the American people ought to know about how their tax dollars are being spent? I don't think that I'm too worried about our now dictator style government to really kind of say anything bad, so I'll say no, not really. You tell Mark you don't really have anything to report. He doesn't quite believe you, but he gives up trying to get anything more from you. The war ends in a stalemate, with each country unable to extend enough power to the other continent to continue an assault. A truce is negotiated in which Taiwan remains independent, and the trade sanctions of both countries are listed. The treaty also defines industry sectors where robot labor is forbidden, and a minimum wage is established, so both countries can have a middle class again. Both countries proceed to break the spirit of the treaty, but in different ways, and life goes on. You are brought to the White House to be presented with an award for your contributions to the war. President Irons gives a speech on the White House lawn behind a podium decorated with America's bald eagle, arrows in one talon, an olive branch in the other. You're reminded that you heard somewhere that the bald eagle is actually a thief who steals other birds' fish, and wonder who thought it was a good idea for a national bird. Perhaps if the national bird was a turkey, as Ben Franklin suggested, it would be a different kind of nation. Small choices can add up after all. This is the sort of thing you think as President Irons delivers a speech about the importance of defending one's nation in times of crisis. She looks much older now. A streak of white runs through her hair. It's time for you and the other scientists to approach the podium. One by one, each scientist shakes hands with the president, and a photographer with a double-lensed 3D camera takes a picture. When it is your turn, President Irons does not give you any hint that she recognizes you, but you are surprised to find that when she shakes your hand, she passes you a coin in the handshake. You have vaguely heard of this. It is a tradition going back to World War II for scientists and soldiers to sometimes be awarded commemorative coins for their service. You open your palm. The gold coin bears an engraving of a robotic bald eagle. Morris Tua Vita Mea reads the inscription above the eagle. Your death, my life. Your nation thanks you, President Iron says absently. Up close, you can tell she is distracted by the various communication feeds flickering up through her internet-enabled monocle. Let's keep the coin in my pocket and not show it to anyone else. You find it difficult to talk about your experience in the war. There are people who would call you a murderer. Others would call you a hero. Neither fully understands, and you feel the weight of both titles. Gold is heavy and cold. When you see a commercial on the web advertising the latest sugary drink, or or hear a summer hit about teens wanting to get it on. You sometimes wonder whether you inhabit the same world as your fellow Americans, who seem to live in some alternate universe that is more light-hearted and shallow. But then you feel the coin in your pocket, and you know that this is the same world, and you bear the cold, heavy weight so they don't have to. The shallow Americans around you are testaments to your success, because you have protected them from the shadow of death. Now that the war is over, what will you do? I have two options: build a robot that knows how to love, or I'm afraid I've done all I can. I have 20 empathy, and I want Lady to learn how to love. You're tired of seeing robots used for war. You want to show the world that robots can love as well. Will your companion be male or female? Female. What will you name her? This is a new robot, I suppose. Let's stick with flame. Are you looking to have a companion with whom you can be romantic? No, I simply want a friend who finally understands me. You select Flame from among the many robots in your factory because she reminds you of yourself. You have lived alone for too long. You need someone who will understand you. You don't need it to be romantic. It doesn't occur to you now. It will later, that Flame may have some thoughts on the matter as well. We'll move on to Chapter 6 in the next episode. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'll see you next time.